Hello, world. It's me, Dennis, and look who I have on the show today. It is Lucie Frost. Hello, Lucie.
Hello, Dennis.
Ah, what a pleasure to meet you. You have delighted me with your reels, and let's just start exactly how I found you. And let's go ahead. Renee, could you roll our first clip?
Y'all complained about people who say spitting image instead of spit and image. And I thought, oh shoot, I'm one of those people. Spit and image? Are you kidding? Have I been wrong all these years? Yes and no. The phrase started as simply spit. That baby looks like the milkman spit him right out. Then it morphed to, that baby was the spit of the milkman. And then over time, for emphasis, that baby was the spit and image of the milkman, which over time became, that baby was the spittin', S-P-I-T-T-E-N, image of the milkman, which is how we got to the spitting image. Spitting image is the more common phrase now, though some people do still say spit and image, and some people are starting to say splitting image. Here's my advice on the topic. Just stay away from the milkman.
You are getting so many views all over. Tell me how this happened. Tell me both. I want to know first. I mean, we'll go back into your journey as a wordsmith and loving words in this. But tell me, how did you get into take this love and go into the social media world and begin doing these reels?
Yeah, it was new for me, obviously, when I started this. I practiced law my whole life, so I was reading and writing all the time. I mean, and that's my joy. Then when I quit practicing law, I knew I wanted to write. So I started doing that. But when I retired, I got stagnant. And then all I was doing is watching reality TV. So I knew I was in trouble when I had watched like every episode of 90 Day Fiancé. And it was really pathetic. So I decided if I was going to be watching that show, I might as well be learning something. So then I started studying all about the fiancé versus marital visa process. And that led me to the illnesses that can disqualify you from getting a visa. And I learned all about those. So it just started where I started learning about anything I was curious about. And then I started writing about it. And then at some point, when I had a book pretty much done, I decided, okay, well, maybe I'll take some of these ideas and put them on social media. And it just took off. You know?
That must have been amazing. I mean, having this up there and then beginning to see people, this language, this amazing language, English, and all of its vagaries and facilities, and it's just amazing. I absolutely love it.
Yes, well, it's so much fun. And, it started out being much broader than language. It still is to some extent, but I do a lot of language things just because I'm interested in that. But one of the first reels I did is when I found out that a woodchuck and a groundhog are the same thing. I was like, what? How did I not know that? And then I just have, because I'm drawn to language, I've just done a lot of language reels too. And today, for example, I did one on the origin of diddly squat, that phrase.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And what is the origin of diddly squat? Tell us on live on. Because I want to know, because I've used that so much in my life.
Yes, well, you may not anymore. It comes from the phrase doodly squat, and doodle meant poo. So it was a euphemism for excrement.
Yes.
And then it just morphed into diddly squat, and it morphed from being excrement, like that guy doesn't know diddly squat, to now just being something that is insignificant or trifling. And I'm just fascinated about how language changes over time. So that's one of the most interesting things for me to look at,
Back in about like 1983 or so, I came across a weird expression. I was like Uncle Daddy to my sister's children, and two of the kids came back and I said, "What happened?" Uh, and what happened? There was something broken or whatever, and the child said, "No, it was on accident."
Oh, versus by accident.
I know, and I kept going, how did that happen? How did on accident? And it took me a while before I went, wait a minute, it's not on purpose, it's on accident. So that
Yes.
was how, just that kind of an evolution, and it spread among the children like a virus.
Right, right. It's so interesting. Just the spitting image one's perfect because that, just absolutely morphed. And when someone told me spit and image, I was like, I have never heard that before, but now I hear
No.
it all the time.
And then, of course, the milkman who was, people always thought, of course, that was back when milk was delivered, of course. And the milkman was the one that, that child looks an awful lot like the milkman.
Right, exactly.
And so we have all that. So there's even a sexual component to it. So it's all part of
Exactly.
it's amazing. So, all right. So what are you doing? You're taking this to a book. You're getting ready to put your first book out, right?
Correct. It's through Trinity University Press, and it comes out. I know, I'm excited. It comes out in April of 25, April 22nd, 25. So that'll be fun. And it's a collection of these, but it's also a light, humorous memoir of my first year post-retirement and just sort of how I came to start learning these sort of factoids.
Isn't it amazing? I don't. When you were growing up, and you look, I'm 76. Where are you on the age spectrum?
I'm 58.
All right, you're 58. All right. So when you looked at people my age, and you looked at the elders, there was a real difference that doesn't seem to be happening today. What's your experience with that?
You mean a difference as far as like we're so much more active
So much
and
more active and engaged
Yes.
and ready to be. I mean, this is like it's like I think of retirement as being an Indianapolis 500 term. You go into the pit, you put on 4 new tires, you retire, and then you get back out onto the oval and get back into the race. So it's because it's an entirely new time, and you can actually recreate this and recreate your life in a new way that is absolutely wonderful.
It is wonderful. And I will say that's true because I have the privilege of not earning an income right now, right? Of being able to do that. And so then I just go back to spending my time on what my joys are. And so many of my friends who have retired are doing the same thing. And, but I'm working, I have a co-working space that I go to every day. I get there at 8 a.m. and I'm working on a novel too. And so I stay busy with that. It's a job, but it doesn't pay enough to.
It is a job. Well, yeah, but many, I mean, when we think of the artists who paint, who spent their years making canvases and creating these wonderful pieces that we now have in our museums that we're all so appreciative of, but they weren't many times they weren't specifically commissioned on what they were doing. This is the same thing as what we're doing. I mean, we are building up the genre, building up the oeuvre of what you have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's true.
So all right, so you go down to the co-working space, your ideas, how often do you post onto your Instagram?
So I post there every day, but sometimes, I mean, a lot of times, depending on what I'm working on, there'll be reruns. And but it goes up every day. When I'm at the co-working space, I'm not so much working on the reels as I am working on the writing. Because if I stay home, I mean, when I've got the dogs and the cleaning and the reels, and I'll start doing those because that's fun when I need to be focusing on the writing. So, it's a balance.
Have you had to develop all right, let's talk about that transition from being a full-time attorney to going into retirement. How did you make that because that's part of your book and what you're doing. So give us a little
Yeah.
bit of a preview of that experience.
It was really difficult because when I left the law firm, I left with the intention of going down to do work with RAICES, which was the Refugee and Immigrant Crisis Center, and to do pro bono legal work down at the detention centers.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, when I went to go do that, I was not emotionally equipped for that work. It was just
It is
devastating.
extraordinary, isn't it?
It was just devastating. And so then I quit doing that. And I just had this sort of crisis of, now what do I do? And I felt really guilty for not doing that work. And also I had no idea what that meant for me going forward. And so really it's like the learning part is how I worked my way out of it. And I thought, that's kind of what I've always done before, is that I've read it and learned, and that's what's made me grow and move to the next thing. So I thought I just have to start doing that somehow. And then I did. And then I started taking a bunch of comedy writing classes with Second City. And there was a group of us who stuck together really well, and they're writing for all sorts of places now. And so the writing just developed and developed. I started publishing a lot of short form humor and did quite a bit of that. But then now that I'm working on the books, I've kind of backed off of that. But, it's like you said, like an artist, you may do sculpture at one point and then do painting. And so I've been trying a lot of different things out, and it's fun.
Well, that's all part of it. Have you had to have a mental shift to be able to see things in a different way, to be able to see that, okay, well, I have to looking at this, this blank page, because I know what it's like to sit in front as a writer, to be able to sit in front of a screen and go, the page is blank, and how intimidating that can be.
Right.
Sitting there, and then to give myself permission to be able to be ordinary. I love Elizabeth Gilbert. I attended a seminar that she gave one time, and she said, done is better than good.
Yes. It's funny you say the Liz Gilbert, because that's how I ended up quitting my job, is that I went to the Brave Magic conference, which she and Cheryl Strayed put on in California. And I was inspired at that conference to quit my job. And in fact, texted my boss from that conference telling her I was leaving.
And blaming it on Elizabeth Gilbert.
Exactly. So
I love Big Magic. Was just that book has just so inspired me. It's just a continual way. It gives me that chance of, like, each one of us can relate to the universe in a custom way. When I think of it, I love the idea of however we relate to a power greater than ourselves, that it's a custom. Dennis gets his own way, and Dennis gets to relate to the universe in its own frequency, my own particular way that no one else can. So it's no way. But it gives, I can look at other people and say, oh, well, maybe I learned a little bit on how they do it. But then I have to sit down and go, okay, now it's my turn, and I get to do it. And so if my metaphor involves magic and fairies, and that's great. If it does, if it doesn't, whatever it is that it does with me.
Yeah. One of the things that they said in their conferences that I thought was really interesting and helped me a lot. They said, your only job is to put the key in the door. Like, you don't have to know where the door leads. You don't have to, all you have to do is put the key in the door. And once I started doing that, just doing the next thing that I was drawn to, and then from there you go to the next thing you're drawn to, and the next thing you're drawn to, and you just sort of build this life based on curiosity. It's really fun. And so I don't really personally have a lot of blank page issues, because if anything, it's more that I have a lot going on in there and it's a lot of pare down issues that, I can vomit a lot on the page.
Sure.
And then it's
What makes you laugh? Who are the people that you are finding funny? Because your sense of humor, you have a wicked wit. That's it's a wonderful pieces of just lovely. Like my favorite type of humor is thought humor.
right.
I'll tell you the joke that I use that I love is that the reason why atheists are the loneliest people in the world is because they have no one to talk to when they're having an orgasm.
That's great.
Isn't that
That's
a
great.
perfect little piece that it just has everything, because it requires the audience to make the connection rather than me giving, and those are the
Right.
kinds of wonderful little pieces of humor. And so when I watch you perform, when I watch you work through your pieces, I see that same thing. I see that bit of you thinking and letting me in and letting us in on the place. I just think it's wonderful. You really have a wonderful connection with the audience. As a matter of fact, we have another reel, another piece of the reel.
Right.
Let's do this one. Renee, would you run us a second reel, please?
Have your cake and eat it too. The phrase means to have or enjoy the good parts of something without having to deal with the bad stuff. So what's bad about eating cake? The phrase used to be eat your cake and have it too. So the have here means to keep. You can't eat your cake and at the same time keep it. But forget keeping the cake, just eat the damn thing.
Well, so back to your question on who inspires me and who I find funny. So many people, but Jenny Lawson absolutely kills me. Every time I read her stuff, I just can barely breathe. I'm laughing so hard. Samantha Irby, another one, just genius humor.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful. Jenny Lawson and Samantha Irby.
yes, and they're both just brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant.
How do you stay out of comparison mode?
I think if I were in my 20s or 30s, and if I were really trying to make a living off of writing, I probably would compare myself to other people. But now, because I'm doing it for my joy, and it just so happens that if other people love it too, great. And if they don't, that's fine too. I just, again, it's back to that. I come from a privileged place where I can afford to just do what I want to do without having to compare myself to anyone.
Right.
So I think that's the joy of age. I don't know. Have you found that too? Like, do you compare yourself as much now as you did when you were younger?
No, I don't compare myself anywhere near as much as I do. I'm now I'm healing in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I grew up through a place, of course, white male privilege. Believe me, it's the best. I recommend it. I would love to have everyone to be able to experience what it's like to be a white male in this society.
Right.
It's amazing. I'm telling you, no wonder it is. But so I want to get other people to be able to have that kind of experience. So if we can do that, that's great. But as I was growing up, I also had a lot of going through the imposter syndrome and self-loathing and all the kinds of things that happen to any human being, but we never talk about, and we never get into those things. So fortunately, through a long series of groups and opportunities and therapy, I've been able to get a lot of healing in that process, because this is a time, I mean, if there ever was a time in our history when we can make more of a difference, it's now.
Right. And when I first started writing, I was writing a lot of political satire. For that reason, that I felt like maybe I could make a difference in that way. Maybe people would listen to humor in a way that they don't listen to other things. So I absolutely, I wrote a piece, for example, about racism in the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise. And I mean, just dumb things too, but really important things,
It's really, yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. I mean, I absolutely think that whatever we do, I hope helps bring others along and helps out.
Yep.
That's the
Well,
goal.
that's what I'm feeling, and when I feel in your work. What I think what attracted me to it was there was always there's something else to learn. There's
Mhm.
something else, that your deep curiosity, because I found that curiosity is the thing. I read about Richard Feynman, one of our great physicists and quantum physicists, and the thing that his father most instilled in him was curiosity.
Mhm.
And nurtured curiosity. So if we can curiosity, because the minute I'm set in my ways that I think, by God, I know what's going on, and I know exactly the way the cow ate the cabbage. Is that another phrase? Is that
Yes, I'm gonna put that on my list. Do
I
cows
mean, where I
cabbage?
have not, I don't know where that anyhow, but I damn right I know what's going on, and I know exactly how it is, and I know how it is for you too.
Right.
One of the things when I was growing up in South Texas, the thing that I would hear from the old timers, one of the most powerful phrases was, "Well, I don't know about you." And tell the story. Well, I don't know about you, but, and I don't know about you. I
Right.
don't know. And the less I think I know about you, the less I do, the better it is for
Yeah. No, and I absolutely, the reels, I call them How the Hell Did I Not Know That? And the book is How the Hell Did I Not Know That? And so the whole idea is we don't know anything. I mean, and everything we think we know, we're wrong about anyway. And so it's fun to figure out those things that it's like, how did I not know that? I did one the other day on the difference between streets and roads and avenues and places. It's like, I don't know what the difference is, but there are differences. Don't
yeah,
ask me to,
yeah.
go through them. But so I think just always learning and always acknowledging that you don't know diddly squat.
Not
you
at
know?
all. All right. What have we not talked about that you want to talk about today? Search your soul. Subject anything in the world. Toss it out for us to chew on.
Anything in the world. Ah, man. I am thinking. I'm thinking. What could we talk about? I've got a new puppy. I mean,
Really? Oh,
that
how
just sort of
nice.
occupies my days.
So you're a dog person?
I'm a dog person. I
Okay.
used to have cats. I'm allergic, and at some point, that the asthma one, and
Yes, exactly. And so that's where you got the puppy.
exactly.
Oh, Lucie Frost, thank you so much for joining me today, for doing the work that you're doing to uplift, because that's what is happening when I see, because I know that I had an emotional reaction when I first saw your reels and continuing to follow. So there's an upliftment, and that's what we're all doing. We can't always know how that uplifting is happening, but it is happening, and it's happening through you. And so I shall emulate you. I will follow you through as you're continuing to do, and I look forward to continuing. Could we talk again when your book comes out?
I would love that. I would
Oh,
love that.
Wouldn't
And I
that be
guess we
fun?
ought to tell people how to get to the Instagram if they're curious.
That's going to be on. It's going to be on the console. We
Oh,
will have
wonderful.
it there, and we're going to make sure that we get a chance to everyone that can see it, and then you share this too with all your lovely Instagram people that love it. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was just a delight to talk to you.
My pleasure. And thank you everybody for joining Lucie Frost and me for a reasonably spontaneous conversation. And we'll see everybody next time.